Jerome Powell just got back from a meeting in Jackson Hole where he discussed what the Fed's plan was for asset purchases.
Smoking orange tree, drinking a dirty orange Fanta. Too legit, too motherfucking quick like MC Hammer. I asked her what's that thing right there, nearly country grammar. Please God, free all of the real ones out the slimmer. Trapper, not a scammer. Now, yellow bitch banana. She went to college in Atlanta, but she from Savannah. She gon' show out every time when I pull out the camera. In the strip club, my diamonds working harder than the dancers. When you doing this, hell yeah, they supposed to.
Jerome Powell just got back from Jackson Hole and said that the Fed will not rush to hike interest rates, but that they will be slowing asset purchases. So the Fed has been purchasing assets such as bonds and mortgage-backed securities. So not only are interest rates going to rise, but when the housing market subsequently pops and the bubble's over, then that will also drag the economy into a further depression. Powell said the U.S. Central Bank could begin slowing down asset purchases this year as the economy recovers from the pandemic. The thing is, the only thing supporting the economy right now is the Fed's asset purchases and the bond market and of mortgage-backed securities. Jerome Powell claimed that the recent rise in inflation is due to changes in the supply chain and COVID, but claims it will be transitory. But I don't see inflation going away soon. Instead, I see inflation actually increasing and going into a stage of hyperinflation. Jerome Powell also said that the Fed has no plan to raise interest rates and that the combination of changes to the supply chain and COVID have impacted the rate of inflation. Month over month, the average has been about 5.4%, but I think since the beginning of the pandemic, we've seen an even higher increase in the price of goods, being that the Fed has flooded money into the economy with stimulus and also printing money for their billionaire friends and for companies to buy back their own stock. And all that new money is overheating the economy and will eventually throw us into hyperinflation. Now, when hyperinflation becomes too rampant for the Fed to control with printing more money, I think that Bitcoin will have another surge and that the bull market is not over. We did have a retracement from around 60,000 to 30,000, then 30,000, and the recovery has been pretty strong. We're sticking around 50,000 right now, just under at 48. The more the Fed tries to fuck with the economy, the worse it will get. So month over month, the average has been 5.4%, and I still think that's a low ball. I think we've seen the Fed also has been creating $120 billion per month, which is enough to end child hunger in the U.S. and provide free health care and dissolve student debt. But instead of using one to narrow the wealth gap and the disparities in generational wealth that Black Americans, Latino Americans, and immigrants experience, that 120 is going towards asset purchases so they can, put the economy on life support. Or rather, profits are unpaid wages. And he went on to continue that the central bank's message is that the current bout of inflation is due partly to supply. Another cause for concern is the employment level, because compared to the deflation of the dollar, wages haven't increased since the 70s. There is a labor shortage because people's labor is no longer valued in the economy and is extremely undervalued. So that explains why there is a labor shortage. You don't have any benefits like you see in other modern countries. Pakistan, Tibet, China, Mongolia, France, Ireland, Japan, Germany, Austria, Hungary, Ukraine, all of them have affordable health care or completely free health care, and a social net to protect people from falling into poverty. But with Biden ending the moratorium on evictions, landlords now have more power to raise the rate of homelessness. It is not the... I saw something and it said the reason why hunger and homelessness exist isn't because of the laziness of people, but the greed of the rich. And that really is what it boils down to. You see people working not just 40-hour weeks, 50-hour weeks, 60-hour weeks, and employers know that their employees are living paycheck to paycheck, so they undervalue the labor that the workers do, and it causes a labor shortage during a pandemic when people don't want to risk their lives for someone else's benefit. So for all the capitalists who like to think that, you know, we should listen to the market and follow the free market, how has the market ever been free? Is it a free market that lobbyists of conglomerates and corporations get to push policies they want in DC? Or is it even a democratic workplace if you have the CEO and managers and executives hoarding profits for themselves and letting their employees... Also said that... But let's see what else he said. Even as the central bank's more hawkish wing urged the need to start tapering process. Atlanta Fed President Raphael Bostic said he is in favor of a quick tapering process so that the economy can stand on its own. The economy won't be able to stand on its own. Dallas Fed President Robert Kaplan said it should start, quote, as soon as possible, but prefers a more gradual approach once it does get underway. But there is no rush on an interest rate hike because the economy is not strong enough to deal with that. And it would be an immediate crash if they were to raise interest rates. But let's get into